The battlefield was quiet, but it was not the peace of safety. It was the silence of death. Smoke rose from broken machines. Black against the fading sky, the air smelled of blood, burned metal, and dust. The ground was covered with fallen soldiers. Human and alien alike, weapons lay scattered, useless now, waiting to rust. The war that had shaken the valley was over, but the silence felt heavier than the sound of guns. Among the bodies, one man still breathed. His name was Captain Elias Ward, a soldier of Earth. He lay on his back, armor cracked, chest rising weakly. Every breath hurt like fire in his lungs. His vision was blurred, his head spinning. He wanted to lift his hand, but it felt like stone. The battle had taken everything from him. His strength, his comrades, his hope. All that remained was the slow fading of life. He closed his eyes for a moment, ready to let go. The war had already taken too much. Maybe it was better to die here, surrounded by silence. But then he heard something, footsteps, soft but steady. His heart jumped. Was it the enemy, searching for survivors to finish the job? Or was it someone from his own side? Someone who had miraculously lived. He forced his eyes open, though the world swam like water. A shadow moved through the smoke, tall and graceful, not human. Her skin shimmered faintly in the fading light, a color between silver and bronze. Her eyes glowed softly, not with cruelty, but with something he could not name. She was a warrior, dressed in armor unlike any he had ever seen. In one hand she carried a spear that pulsed with blue energy. In the other, a flask carved with strange symbols. She walked slowly, carefully, her gaze scanning the broken field. When her eyes fell on Elias, she paused. For a long moment, she only stared. Then she knelt beside him, the metal plates of her armor clicking softly. Elias tried to speak, but only blood came from his mouth. His body shook, every nerve screaming. The woman tilted her head, as if deciding what to do. Finally she spoke, her voice calm, steady, yet heavy with meaning. "You are not dead yet. Human," she said, her words strangely clear. "You should be." Elias coughed, tried to answer, but no sound came. The woman looked at him for another moment, then opened the flask. Inside was water, but it was no ordinary water. It glowed faintly, as if it carried light itself. Elias's blurred eyes widened. He had never seen anything like it. The woman hesitated, her lips pressed into a thin line. "This is not for your kind," she whispered, almost to herself. "But you will die if I do nothing." She lifted his head gently, her hands surprisingly soft for a warrior. Elias tried to resist, not out of fear, but out of confusion, yet he was too weak. The flask touched his lips. The first drop slid into his mouth, and everything changed. It was like fire and ice at the same time. His chest burned, his veins lit up with energy. His heart, which had been slow and heavy, now pounded like thunder. The pain of broken bones eased, the bleeding slowed. His breath came faster, stronger. He coughed again, but this time not blood, air, clean and deep. Strength returned to his limbs, though it was strange, unnatural. It was not the slow recovery of a man, but the sudden surge of something else. The woman pulled the flask away, her face unreadable. Elias gasped, staring at her. His voice finally came, rough and broken. What did you give me?" The woman did not answer at once. Her glowing eyes searched his face. Finally, she said, "I gave you life, but not the same life you had." Her words chilled him more than the battlefield itself. He looked at his hands, trembling. The wounds that had nearly killed him were closing before his eyes, but the skin around them glowed faintly, a strange light crawling beneath the surface. His body was alive, but it was not his body anymore. The silence of the battlefield returned, but now it was not the silence of death. It was the silence before something dangerous began. Elias realized he had survived, but survival might not be a gift. It might be a curse, and the cost of the water was only beginning to show. Elias lay on the cold ground, his chest rising with new strength, but his heart filled with fear. The battlefield was still silent, broken only by the sound of smoke crackling in the distance. He stared at the alien woman who had saved him, her flask still glowing faintly in her hand. His voice was rough, almost trembling. "What did you do to me?" The woman's silver bronze eyes locked on him, calm yet heavy. "I gave you water," she said softly, but not water meant for humans. Her words were strange, carrying both warning and truth. She held the flask close to her chest, as if protecting it from even the wind. Elias tried to sit up, his body no longer broken, but the energy running through his veins felt unnatural. His hands shook as he touched his chest. The wound that should have killed him was closed. The flesh pulsed faintly, glowing where the water had touched his blood. It was life, but not the life he had known. "You should not have done this," Elias whispered, his voice low. The woman tilted her head, her armor reflecting the dying light of the battlefield. "If I had not," she said, "you would be lying with the dead." Her words were not cruel, only matter of fact. Yet Elias felt no comfort. He tried to push himself up fully, his body moving with strange speed, almost too fast. The sudden strength made him stumble, his balance off. The woman reached out, steadying him with one hand. Her grip was firm, far stronger than it looked. "You are not stable yet," she told him. "The water has only begun its work." Elias frowned, his throat dry though he had just drunk. "What do you mean, its work?" She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she sighed, almost as if speaking the truth was a burden. "The water is sacred. It belongs to my people, not yours," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "It heals, it gives strength, but it also changes. Once it enters the blood, it does not stop." Elias felt his stomach twist. He touched his arm, the veins glowing faintly like lines of fire under the skin. "This isn't healing," he muttered. "This is something else." The woman's silence was answer enough. Finally, she spoke again. "You live because of me, human. But now your life is tied to mine." Her words cut deep. "What do you mean?" "Tied?" Elias asked, his voice harsher. The woman looked at the glowing flask, then back at him. "My people's water binds the one who drinks it to the one who gives it," she explained. "Your strength now answers to me. If you leave me, the change will consume you." Elias stared at her, anger rising in his chest. "So I traded one death for another," he growled. The woman did not flinch. "You traded certain death for survival," she said coldly. "Do not mistake survival for freedom." The words hung in the air like a blade. Elias clenched his fists, his body shaking with the mix of fear and fury. He had fought battles before, seen comrades fall, faced enemies without mercy. But this was something else. His life no longer belonged to him. It was chained to a stranger, to a woman whose name he did not even know. He finally asked, his voice low and bitter. "Who are you?" The woman hesitated, then answered, "My name is Serenia, warrior of the Caliph." The name felt heavy on his tongue, alien and sharp. Serenia studied him, her glowing eyes searching. "You should be grateful," she said softly, "but gratitude is rare among humans." Elias wanted to shout, to deny her words, but deep inside, he knew she was right. He was alive because of her, and because of that cursed water. He tried to walk, each step stronger than before, yet filled with unease. Every movement felt both natural and wrong. His senses sharpened. He could hear the faint hiss of smoke, the soft crackle of distant fires, even the heartbeat of Serenia standing beside him, steady and calm. The world was louder, brighter, more alive than before. But it was too much. It felt like drowning in sound and sight. He staggered, clutching his head. Serenia's hand steadied him once again. "The changes will come in waves," she said. "Do not resist, or it will break you." Elias wanted to push her away, but his body obeyed her presence, a bond already forming, unseen but powerful. His survival was no longer his alone. And as the battlefield grew darker under the falling night, he realized something terrifying. The battle he had survived was not the end. It was only the beginning of a new war inside him. The flask that had saved him was not a gift. It was a chain, and he had no choice but to carry it. The night grew darker, and the battlefield sank into silence once more. Captain Elias Ward walked slowly beside Serenia, his body healed but his mind heavy. Every step felt strange, as though the ground itself shifted differently beneath his boots. He had survived wounds that should have killed him, yet survival did not feel like victory. It felt like standing on the edge of something unknown. The water still moved inside his veins, a quiet fire that refused to fade. His hands trembled, not from weakness, but from energy that had nowhere to go. Sometimes it surged suddenly, like lightning, making his muscles twitch without warning. Other times it was cold, as if ice crept through his blood. He pressed his hand against his chest, feeling the strange rhythm of his heart. It beat strong, too strong, almost unnatural. He remembered Serenia's words, "The changes will come in waves," and now he understood. First wave struck when he heard them, voices in the distance, soft and broken. No human ear should have been able to hear them from so far away. But Elias did. Enemy scouts, moving carefully through the ruins of the battlefield. Searching for survivors, he froze, staring into the dark. "They are coming," he whispered. Serenia turned her glowing eyes to him, her expression calm. "You hear them?" she asked, her tone almost curious. Elias swallowed hard. "Too far. I should not hear them, but I do." Serenia only nodded, as if she had expected this. "The water does not only heal," she said, "it awakens." Her words made his stomach tighten. He had never wanted awakening. He had only wanted to live. Now every sense burned with power he could not control. The wind carried scents he had never noticed before. Smoke, metal, even the faint iron of blood still wet on broken stones. His sight sharpened. The night no longer a blanket of darkness, but filled with outlines, movement, and shadows he should not be able to see. And in his ears, the voices of the scouts grew clearer, laughing, whispering, their language strange yet suddenly understandable. Elias shut his eyes and covered his ears, but the sounds would not stop. It was like the battlefield itself had begun to speak inside his head. Serenia placed a hand on his shoulder, her grip firm. "Control it," she said softly. "Do not let it control you." Elias growled under his breath. "You did this to me." Her gaze did not waver. "I saved you." But her calm words did not ease the storm inside him. The scouts drew closer, their footsteps crunching over broken stone. Elias could feel their movements, not just hear them. It was as if the earth itself whispered their approach into his blood. He reached for the rifle lying beside a fallen soldier, his hand moving too quickly. The weapon felt light, far lighter than before. He raised it, aimed, and realized his vision locked perfectly onto the enemy. Every breath, every movement of theirs appeared clear in his mind. He pulled the trigger. The shot cracked through the silence. One scout fell instantly. The others shouted, confusion and fear in their voices. But Elias was no longer moving like a human. He rushed forward, his feet striking the ground with unnatural speed. His body obeyed before his mind could think. The rifle fired again, then his fist struck like steel. One enemy dropped with a broken jaw. Another fell with his chest crushed. The fight was over. Before it had begun, the battlefield fell silent again. Only Elias's heavy breathing breaking the air. He stood frozen, staring at his hands. The skin still glowed faintly, his veins like rivers of dim fire beneath the flesh. He had killed quickly, easily, far too easily. He was a soldier. He had taken lives before. But this was different. This was not training, not skill, not even luck. This was power that did not belong to him. He turned slowly toward Serenia, his chest rising with rage, fear, and confusion. "What am I becoming?" he demanded, his voice shaking. Serenia met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "You are becoming what the water makes you," she sighed. Her calm voice carried no comfort, only truth. Elias staggered back, his hands trembling. "This isn't me," he whispered. This is something else. Serenia took a step closer, her eyes glowing brighter in the dark. Listen to me, human, she said firmly. The first signs are only the beginning. You must learn to master them, or they will master you. Her words echoed in his mind like thunder. Master it, or be destroyed by it. Elias clenched his fists, staring at the corpses of the scouts lying broken around him. The power had saved him, but the cost was already showing. He had survived the battlefield, but he no longer knew if he had survived as a human. The silence returned once more, heavier than before. Elias knew that this night was not the end of his war. It was only the first battle, not against an enemy outside, but against the terrifying force inside himself. The battlefield lay silent once again. The bodies of the enemy scouts scattered where Elias had struck them down. His chest rose and fell quickly, his hands still glowing faintly with that strange light. His heart pounding like war drums inside him. He stared at the broken soldiers at his feet, fear crawling up his spine, not because of them, but because of himself. He had fought before, he had killed before, but never like this, never with such ease, never with such unnatural strength. Serenia stood nearby, calm as stone, her spear resting against her shoulder, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She had not moved during the fight, not even lifted a finger to help, as if she had been watching a test unfold. You see now, she said softly, her voice echoing in the night air. The water has chosen its path through you. Elias turned on her, anger burning in his chest. You used me, he spat. You made me into this thing. Serenia did not flinch, her expression unreadable. I saved you, she answered firmly. You would be a corpse among the ruins if not for me. Elias shook his head, stepping closer, his fists clenched tight. You didn't save me, he growled. You chained me. His words hung heavy in the silence, like blades waiting to strike. Serenia tilted her head, studying him carefully. The water is not mercy, human. It is power, and power always demands a price, she said. Her voice carried no regret, no apology, only the weight of truth. Elias felt his blood boil, his body still trembling from the rush of battle. And what is the price? He asked bitterly, his voice sharp. Tell me the truth, for the first time. Serenia's calm expression cracked, only slightly, but enough to unsettle him. She looked down at the flask in her hand, the faint glow pulsing like a living heart. Finally, she said, the water binds the drinker to the giver. Your life is tied to mine. Your strength answers to me. Elias froze, his breath catching in his throat. You mean, he whispered, I can't live without you? Serenia's gaze returned to his, steady and unshaken. Yes, she said simply. If you walk away from me, the water will tear you apart from the inside. It will consume you until nothing remains. Elias staggered back, his body trembling. Not from weakness, but from fury and fear. All his years of fighting, all his battles for survival. And now his life belonged to someone else, a stranger, an alien, a warrior of a people he did not understand. He slammed his fist into the ground, the impact cracking stone beneath it, the strength too much for his control. His voice roared through the night. I never asked for this. Serenia's eyes narrowed, but her voice remained calm. No, she said, but you drank, and once the water enters, there is no turning back. Her words felt like chains tightening around his chest. He wanted to fight her, to strike her down, to tear the bond away. But when he looked into her glowing eyes, he felt something strange, not weakness, but weight. The bond between them was not only in his body, it was in his soul, invisible, yet unbreakable. Why me? He asked finally, his voice low, broken. Serenia stepped closer, her presence heavy, her shadow stretching across him. You were dying, she said simply. I chose to save you, because even the enemy of my enemy can be useful. But the water made its own choice too. It accepted you. Her words stung, not because of cruelty, but because they were true. He was alive because of her, but survival had cost him his freedom. He owed her more than his life. He owed her his very existence. Elias sat heavily on a broken piece of stone, his hands trembling as he stared at the glow beneath his skin. The battlefield was quiet, but inside his chest the storm raged. He thought of his fallen comrades, men who had fought and died as themselves. And here he was, alive, but no longer. Fully human, bound to a woman he did not trust. He closed his eyes, his voice a whisper. "You saved me, but you destroyed me too." Serenia turned her head, her face unreadable. "Perhaps," she said softly, "or perhaps I gave you something greater than your kind has ever known." Elias lifted his gaze, his eyes hard. "I don't want something greater," he said bitterly. "I just wanted to live as myself." For a long moment, they said nothing, the silence between them heavier than the weight of the battlefield. Finally, Serenia spoke again, her tone firm. "You can hate me, human, you can curse me, but understand this. Without me, you are nothing now. Your strength is borrowed, your life is tied, your debt is eternal." The words pierced deeper than any blade. Elias clenched his fists, his knuckles white. He had fought enemies on battlefields, but this was a war he had never prepared for. A war not for his life, but for his soul. And though he burned with rage, deep inside he knew the truth. He was bound to Serenia, and the debt to her could never be broken. The night pressed heavy on the ruins, the smoke of battle slowly fading into the sky. Elias sat on the cold stone, his body alive with unnatural strength, but his heart sinking deeper into shadows. Serenia stood a few steps away, silent, her glowing eyes watching the dark horizon as if waiting. The silence between them was thick, neither speaking. Both bound by a truth neither could escape. But silence on the battlefield never lasted long. Elias felt it first, before sound or sight. A ripple through the earth, a vibration in the air. His senses sharpened like blades, the water inside his veins reacting before his mind understood. He froze, his head snapping toward the east. "They're coming," he whispered, his voice cold, certain. Serenia did not ask who, she already knew. Moments later, the sound reached them, the clatter of armored boots, the growl of alien voices, the low hum of engines, enemy reinforcements, sweeping through the ruins, searching for survivors, searching for the weak. Elias clenched his fists, the fire in his veins burning hotter. Every instinct told him to fight, to rise and strike before they found him. But another voice inside, quieter, warned him this was not a fight he could win alone. Not even with his new strength. Serenia moved closer, her spear glowing with faint energy. "The scouts were only the first wave," she said calmly. "Now the hunters come." Her tone was not fear, but certainty, as if she had seen this countless times before. Elias turned to her sharply. "And what do you expect me to do? I didn't ask for your water. I didn't ask to be your weapon." Serenia's gaze did not waver. "You are alive because of my choice. Now survival demands another choice. Stand with me, or fall without me." Before Elias could answer, the first lights cut through the smoke, beams of red and white slicing across the ruins. Searching, hunting, figures moved in the dark, tall and armored, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. The hunters were larger than the scouts, their movements precise, disciplined. They were not searching for survivors to finish. They were cleansing the battlefield, leaving nothing alive. Elias gritted his teeth, his breath sharp. The bond with Serenia throbbed inside him, pulling, urging. He hated it, but he could not deny it. His body leaned toward her presence, as if the water itself pushed him closer. His voice broke through the smoke, low but certain. "If we fight, they will see us both. If we run, they will chase." "What is your plan?" Serenia's lips curved. Faintly, not a smile, but the shadow of one. "You are learning," she said, her spear tightening in her grip. "Survival is never won by one path, but by balance. Strike when they do not expect. Vanish before they recover." Her words were calm, but Elias could feel the energy behind them. the certainty of a warrior who had lived this truth countless times. The hunters drew closer, their voices sharp in a language Elias should not understand, yet now he did. "The humans lie dead," one said. "Search for the Caliph, none must." "Survive." Elias froze, his gaze snapping to Serenia. "They're looking for you," he whispered. Serenia's expression darkened, but she did not deny it. "They will not stop until they find me," she said softly. "That is why I gave you the water, because I knew the hunters would come." Anger flared inside Elias. "So I was just a shield," he growled. "You saved me only to use me against them." Serenia met his fury with silence, the truth already written in her eyes. Elias wanted to curse her, to fight her, but the hunters were too close, their lights cutting through the ruins. He had no choice. Survival demanded action, the first. Hunter stepped into the clearing, his weapon glowing. Before Elias could think, his body moved. Faster than he had ever moved in his life. He struck, his fist smashing into the alien's chest. Armor shattering under the blow, the hunter flew back, crashing against stone. The others shouted, weapons firing beams of energy that lit the night. Serenia's spear whirled like lightning, deflecting blasts, striking with precision. Together, they fought, Elias raw and furious, Serenia calm. And deadly, enemies fell one by one, the ground shaking with every strike. But Elias could feel it, deep inside. The more he fought, the less human he felt. Each punch, each surge of strength, pulled him farther from the man he once was. When the last hunter fell, silence returned once more. Elias stood over the bodies, his chest heaving, his skin glowing with faint fire. He looked at his hands, blood and light mixing across his skin. "I am not me anymore," he whispered, his voice breaking. Serenia stepped beside him, her eyes glowing bright in the dark. "No," she said calmly, "you are something more." But Elias did not feel more. He felt the terrifying truth. Every battle he survived brought him closer to something unrecognizable. And the enemy would keep coming, wave after wave, until nothing of him remained. The hunters had returned. But the greater battle was the one raging inside him. The ruins were quiet again. But the quiet did not bring peace. Elias stood over the fallen hunters, his chest heaving, his hands still glowing faintly in the shadows. The battlefield smelled of smoke, blood, and burned metal, a reminder that war was not done with him. Serenia lowered her spear, her expression calm, as if this fight had been nothing more than a step in a long path. Elias turned toward her, his eyes sharp, his voice low and shaking. "Enough," he said. "No more riddles, no more silence. Tell me the truth. What is happening to me?" Serenia's gaze lingered on him for a long moment, as if she weighed how much he could bear. Finally, she moved closer, her armor glinting faintly in the firelight, her voice carrying a weight that pressed on the night. "The water I gave. You is sacred to the Caliph," she began slowly. "It was never meant for human blood." Her words cut into him like blades. Elias clenched his fists, waiting, his breath sharp. Serenia continued, "Among my people, the water is given only to warriors chosen to carry the burden of power. It heals them, strengthens them, binds them to the will of the Caliph. But even for us, it carries a cost." Elias frowned, his pulse quickening. "And for humans?" he asked, his voice tight. Serenia's eyes glowed brighter, sorrow flickering inside them, though her tone stayed calm. "For humans, the cost is greater. Your body was not made for it. Every moment the water moves through your veins, changes you, piece by piece, cell by cell, until you are no longer what you were." The word struck him harder than any enemy's weapon. Elias stepped back, shaking his head, his voice breaking. "You mean I'm what?" "Turning into one of you." Serenia did not answer at once, the silence heavier than her words. Finally she said, "Not fully one of us. Not fully one of your kind. You will become something between. Something that has no place among either people." Elias felt the ground tilt beneath him. His heart racing, all his battles, all his struggles, had been to hold on to who he was, A soldier, a man of earth, and now that was slipping away from him. Stolen by a single drink of glowing water, his voice rose, sharp with anger. You should have let me die. Serenya's expression hardened, her voice firm. If I had let you die, you would be nothing but ash and memory. Instead, you breathe, you fight, you live. But yes, the life you carry now is no longer the life you had. Her words carried no cruelty, but no comfort either, only truth. Elias turned away, his hands trembling, the glow under his skin pulsing like fire. He felt stronger than he had ever felt, but also less human with every heartbeat. He pressed his palm against a stone wall, and the rock cracked beneath his touch. He staggered back, staring at his hand in horror. This isn't life, he whispered. This is a curse. Serenya stepped closer, her voice steady. A curse can be a weapon, if you learn to wield it. Elias spun toward her, fury burning in his eyes. Don't speak to me like this is some gift. I never asked for this. Serenya did not flinch, her eyes glowing brighter. No one asks for survival, human. Survival takes what it must, and gives what it chooses. Her words echoed through the night, sinking into Elias like poison. He wanted to deny her, to strike her down, but deep inside, he knew the truth. The changes were real, the power was real, and the bond between them was unbreakable. He could feel it, like invisible chains pulling tighter each time he resisted. Finally, his voice broke the silence, softer, almost pleading. Tell me the worst of it, Serenya. Tell me what this water will do to me, what I will become. Her gaze lingered on him, and for the first time, her voice carried something heavier than calm, sorrow. You will lose yourself, she said quietly. Slowly the man you were will fade, your memories may remain. But the body, the instincts, the very soul will shift, until the human in you is no more. Elias froze, her words sinking like ice into his chest. The soldier, the man, the human, all of it would vanish. He wanted to scream, but no sound came, only silence. Serenya lowered her head, her final words heavy as stone. If you stay with me, I can guide the change. If you leave, it will devour you in pain until nothing of you remains. The night wind whispered across the ruins, carrying the smoke and ash of the dead. Elias stood in the middle of it all, his fists clenched, his body trembling, his soul breaking. He had survived death, but survival had given him something far worse than death. The truth. The terrifying truth that his humanity was not slipping away. It was already gone. The night stretched long over the battlefield, the smoke fading, but the weight of death still hanging heavy in the air. Elias stood in silence, the glow of his veins faint beneath his skin, his fists trembling as the truth echoed in his mind. He was alive, but he was no longer fully human, and every heartbeat carried him farther from the man he had once been. Serenya watched him closely, her glowing eyes steady, her presence unshaken by his anger. She had spoken the truth. She had told him what the water would do. And now the burden of choice lay on his shoulders. She finally broke the silence, her voice calm but firm. You must decide, human. Remain with me and accept what you are becoming, or walk away and let the change consume you. Elias turned sharply, his face twisted with rage and despair. You call this a choice, he said bitterly. It is no choice at all. Either I lose myself beside you, or I die alone. Serenya did not flinch, her voice sharp as steel. Life is never without cost, soldier. Your kind should know that more than most. Her words burned, but Elias could not deny them. Every battle he had fought, every life he had taken, had come with a price. But this was different. This was not just the price of war. This was the price of his very humanity. He clenched his fists tighter, feeling the stone beneath his boots crack. With the strength he could no longer control, images filled his mind, his fallen comrades lying silent on the ground, the soldiers who had fought and died as men of earth, and then himself, standing alive but changed, glowing with alien fire, bound to a woman whose people were not his own. The thought cut deeper than any wound. What will I tell myself? He whispered, his voice shaking, that I survived only to become something else. That I live but no longer belong to the world I fought for. Serenia stepped closer, her armor glinting faintly in the broken light. You tell yourself the truth, she said softly. That survival is never pure, never clean. That life always takes from one side to give to another. Her voice carried no pity, but it carried a strange weight of understanding. Elias met her gaze, searching for something, maybe mercy, maybe regret. But her eyes were steady, unyielding. The bond between them throbbed in his chest, stronger now, undeniable. He hated it, yet he could not resist it. Every breath he took seemed tied to her. Every surge of strength connected to her presence. It was more than chains. It was as if their souls had been forced into one path. At last, Serenia spoke again, her words heavy. With finality, you can walk away, Elias Ward. And the water will eat you alive until nothing remains. Or you can stay, learn, fight, and live, even if the life you carry is no longer the one you wanted. The choice pressed down on him like the weight of the battlefield itself. Death or transformation, silence in the ground or survival as something unknown. Neither path gave him freedom, neither path gave him back what he had lost, but survival. Rarely offered mercy, Elias lifted his head, his eyes burning with both fury and sorrow. I fought for my people, I fought for my world, but now I cannot even call myself one of them. His voice broke, but then hardened again. If I walk with you, Serenia, if I live this cursed life, then I will live not as your servant, not as your weapon, but as myself. Whatever I become. For the first time, Serenia's expression shifted, the faintest shadow of respect flickering across her face. Then you begin to understand, she said quietly. Her words were not praise, not comfort, but recognition. The kind given from one warrior to another. Elias turned his gaze back to the battlefield, to the broken world that had birthed his curse. He knew the hunters would come again. He knew the bond with Serenia would only tighten. He knew his humanity would slip further away with every fight, every heartbeat. But he also knew he could not run. The night wind carried the smell of ash, the sound of silence, the memory of war. Elias clenched his fists, his voice a whisper swallowed by the darkness. I will live, no matter the cost. Serenia nodded once, her eyes glowing brighter. Then your true war begins now, she said. The words hung in the air like a promise and a curse. The battlefield was silent again, but inside Elias Ward, the storm raged louder than ever. He had survived death, but survival had taken everything. Now the path ahead was not about living as a man, but about becoming something else, something terrifying, and the choice he had made tonight would echo far beyond the ruins, for the world had not yet seen what he was becoming. Asterisk.